Hello everyone. Today we're going to have a look at Ricercar number 8 by Dalza. I'm going to jump straight in at bar 10. So at bar 10 we've got this A major chord, and then halfway through we play this A bass note. And there are many occasions in this piece where we have to hold on to a bass note for longer than we might assume or that our fingers want to. And this is one of those cases. So what I'm doing in bar 10 is holding on to this A bass all the way through to bar 13. Now you'll notice in bar 12 there is an editorial D bass note that you have the option of playing, so it could go. For me, I think it slightly undermines some of the harmonic oddities in this piece to sort of add a correcting bass note there to firmly establish that we're in D. So I'm choosing not to play that one, but it's entirely up to you whether you play it. So for me, I need to hold on to this A bass all the way up to where I believe the D arrives in bar 13. Okay, I mean a D major chord, but we're only really hearing the F sharp and the A. Okay. Okay, so that the point that we arrive in bar 13, that is the point where we can release that bass note. So try and work out your left hand fingerings for that, maybe write them in if you need to, but try and hold on to that bass note for as long as possible. The next thing to talk about is bar 14, because I think this is a really interesting example of how often harmony can pass by in this piece without there being a root bass note to the chord. So, for example, in bar 13, we've got an F sharp and an A, and then a G and an E natural, just as thirds. And then from this chord, which is we're assuming it's a sort of C major chord, we then play C in the bass against an F sharp and then a G on the top string, which has a very odd feeling. We wouldn't normally play a sort of C major chord and use an F sharp as a passing note because it's not part of the C major scale. So that's just a little oddity there that I think is worth bringing out a little bit. It's slightly strange. Because it's almost as if the bass note's wrong, like we're playing in the wrong key, but it kind of works at the same time. But yeah, maybe bring that out a little bit when you play. Next thing to have a look at is 16 into 17. Now, at the start of 16, we're playing this arpeggiated chord, and it's entabulated in that way, so that we're sort of spreading the chord from the top down. Okay, but then we need to hold on to that D in the bass. It's a D major chord until we get to the G major chord in the next bar, which is bar 18 by that point. So 16. Make sure you hold down all of those notes in the D major chord, because otherwise we don't quite hear it. And then carry on holding that low D until we get to the G major chord. Okay, great. And then we've got a section that's much higher on the lute, and that's okay, that sort of plays itself. Just remember to hold on to as many notes as you can for as long as possible, unless the harmony changes. And then we get to bar 30, and here's another instance where we really need to hold on to this low A all the way to 32, where we get a D major chord, and then we have to hold on to that low D as well for as long as possible. Now, depending on how you finger that, you might release it after the first bar. If you can really work out a fingering to get you all the way through to bar 34, then even better. And then on top of that, we need to think about how we're going to musically shape those phrases. So from 30 to 32, like how can we play that passage in a way that illustrates the way that it moves? So we've got a sort of, we go up a little bit and then we descend. And I think it's quite nice to observe that shape a little bit when we're thinking about how we might phrase it. Yeah? Great, so exactly the same coming out at 32. Depending on how you finger that, you might be able to hold on to some of those, so hold on to that bass note for a little bit longer, but just think about particularly how that phrase is shaped. Great, so looking much further ahead to 47. Now 47 is probably the bar that you should play first before you start playing the rest of the piece, and that's because it's just got the fastest notes in it. So when we get to when we start playing the piece at the beginning, we need to have in mind how fast we can possibly play bar 47, because if you can't play bar 47 at the speed that you start, we'll get there and you'll have to slow down. And whilst that can be a sort of effect, I think it's probably a good idea to be able to play the whole piece at a certain speed before you start to mess around with the tempo in any place. So, okay, and we're just fingering that with the right hand in the sort of normal way, using thumb and first finger. Cool. So we just need to make sure that when we get to that point, we're playing at the right tempo. And then I think it's quite interesting coming into 47 to really make a point about the fact that the harmonic pace has changed slightly. We're suddenly playing chords on each half bar. Okay, because it's a slightly different tone. It's only a few bars earlier, we slow down a little bit. But then this feels like a real re-establishment of D minor with that little flourish at the end. So, great, keep an eye on that for speed. Make sure that you're not going too fast in the build-up to that slightly faster bar. And yeah, it should see you through to the end. Great. So the last section, the penultimate bar, bar 54, what we're going to look at here is just make sure that the rhythm is nice and punchy, because we're playing on an offbeat. And even though we're probably playing it with a weaker digit in our right hand, we want it to really punch so that we get the rhythm da 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 da. Got a few different options about how you finger it with the right hand. You might use your thumb for the second beat, you might use your first finger. It depends what you want to do musically. If you want to really bring it out, you might use a heavier digit on the right hand. If you want a slightly softer hocketing sound, you might go for the first finger. So would be a sort of first finger example, and then if I'm using my middle finger, and that can bring it out a little bit more. But it's up to you how you choose to do that. Great, hope you enjoy this one. It's a really good fun piece to learn. Enjoy.